And so used to, if you put something in on your calendar, when you got close to the time, it would just send you a notification. No, not now. Now you have to tell it if you want it to send you a notification.
Welcome to Truth and Life Today with Congregation Adat Ariel, Jewish believers in Jesus and teachers of spiritual warfare. If you'd like to speak with us tonight, call 618-924-1851. And now, here's a lovely and talented producer, Deb.
Welcome to the Truth and Life broadcast, where we do our best every week to bring you a biblical perspective on the things we see going on around us and the headlines around the world in the same tradition established for this program by Rabbi Moshe Lori. I am indeed producer Deb, sitting solo at the table tonight. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment, but behind the microphone,
this is Jim. And once again, everyone, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to give us a call at 618-924-1851.
Our friend Richard, who joins us from time to time while he's still battling the C. diff, but he finally got the antibiotic he needed. I think that they were giving him vancomycin, which he said one other time when he had this problem, they gave him, and it didn't work then either.
Mm-hmm.
So they had given him this new medication, this new, I guess, antibiotic, but the same this time as it was last time. His copay for that was going to be $1,100. So he had to fill out the paperwork, and I think that the company has been nice enough to give it to him again. So he said, and he thinks it's beginning to work. I talked to him today. He said he's not 100%, but he said he can tell that this stuff, whatever it is, what the new medication is, it really works. Unfortunately, if you had to pay for, if it's a copay of $1,100, I wonder how much the actual 10 pills cost,
Mm-hmm.
thousands of dollars. So
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's the way it is. But
And
yeah, you can't get that under Trump med.
No.
I don't think they.
you can't get it under anybody med.
Mm-mm.
No.
You just, if you need it, you got to pay for it. So
I had to go in for an endoscopy today. It was an EGD, gastro and duodenum. And the doctor, who was of Mediterranean descent, came in, and my mom's words, he says, he came in, the first words he said was squeaky clean.
oh,
My esophagus, they thought possibly the cancer had spread to my esophagus, but not so fast there, Sherlock.
awesome. Well,
And so that's good news. All we got to do is treat the nodules that are in the lung, and hopefully that's the end of it.
Go from there.
Yep, it's I haven't received any treatment at all yet since November, but except from the doctor in Nashville, Tennessee, who's not FDA approved, but I think what he's doing is doing its job. We've just got to treat what's there.
All right. That's
And
I
with
guess
the Lord's help, we'll get it done.
And I guess you're still doing the sound wave therapy, right? So
I'm still doing sound wave therapy
So-
of the Rife machine, RIFE.
Mhm.
And, we're doing things that are unorthodox simply because I'm
Orthodox doesn't work.
right. Well,
Well, there's not a.
it's not that it's not working. It's just they're dragging their feet in doing the treatment, I think.
What I mean orthodox as far as chemo and your particular
Yeah.
cancer situation does not respond to chemo. So you got to go outside of the box is what I'm
Right.
saying.
And-
It, standardized does not work.
But there are immunotherapy drugs out there that they use to treat this with that act like chemo. They just instead of breaking down all of the cells in your body, they build your immune system up
Right.
to kill the cancer. So,
But you went through
Um,
some immunotherapy, but that didn't seem to do the trick.
well, I think it held it off, and I think it worked to an extent.
Mm.
It held it off for a year. So
Would they be putting you back on that or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's more to come on that.
More to come,
I'll keep you updated.
Right.
Keep you posted. So
And opening day.
yay,
right?
opening
so this
day.
Is, it explains this. The St. Louis Cardinals had their. I don't know if they won or lost. I don't
I'm
know.
gonna check that.
But they had their opening day today, and of course, they do something there at Busch Stadium that they don't do anywhere else, and they bring out the world famous Budweiser Clydesdales, and they take them all the way around. It's that, I don't know what that is, that gray or not gray.
They go around the warning track.
The warning track, what is that made out of? They trot around that, but they go all the way around the baseball field, but they're on the very outside.
Well, it's still made of AstroTurf. It's very spongy.
Because I know they were making their little clip-clop prints in it.
Right, and the rest of it's natural turf. So I'm sure they were trotting on natural turf at least, but I'm not sure about the warning track, if that's natural turf or not. Yeah, it's not the green part. They're on the brown part out there. So, right. So that might be artificial turf, and that's where all the drainage happens whenever it rains. So it's kind of on each side of the field. It starts, at the middle of the field, and it kind of goes at an incline, for maybe 3 or 4 inches all the way to the right field and left field wall, and that's their drainage system.
Yep.
And it's nice to see the Clydesdales every year.
Yeah.
Even as a Cubs fan.
Some point I would love to see that in person, but didn't make it this year. Maybe next year. Who knows?
Cardinals won 9-7 over the Tampa Bay Devil Rays.
Ooh. Yay.
My beloved Chicago Cubs, they lost 10-4 to the Washington Nationals.
Huh. Wow.
And but they always lose the first game. Whether they're good or bad, they always lose the first game.
I see.
So,
Well, there you go. But Cardinals win. I'm sure it was a lovely day up there. I don't know. I wasn't up there.
It was supposed to be 90 at game time.
Yeah. This was warm to wear today. Last year, I believe it was cold and kind of dreary, and it was not very pretty last year. But this year they had a summer day. This is just like summer temperatures around here. I think we're going to go back again. I think we're supposed to get some storms either tonight or tomorrow. I haven't checked
tonight. And it's supposed to be in the 50s.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
So they got that game in just in time.
Yeah.
But it's and like I said, it's a St. Louis thing. I'm not necessarily a sports fan, but it's just, if you love St. Louis, you root for the Cardinals. It's one of those, you're supporting the city and the hometown team type of thing. I've just always grown up, like I said, with the St. Louis baseball Cardinals and actually the St. Louis football Cardinals. That's what I grew up with. So until they left, but.
Right. But
that's,
they went to Arizona, and
yeah. So they had the Rams for a while, and then they left and went back to L.A., I guess.
Yes, they went back to L.A.
So there you go. But they never quite felt like that didn't quite feel like the right fit. It was fun, but it just wasn't the right fit. So, and I'm less of a football person than a baseball person. So. But anyway, the Clydesdales are a unique thing. They, I was looking into it. I remember, because the Clydesdale operation, the big operation of taking care of and raising those animals, is now in Boonville, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was trying to look it up. Don't remember when this happened, but I remember it happening. The Busch family owns what's called Grant's Farm in St. Louis, and that's where Ulysses S. Grant's farm was. That was his home. And I don't remember when they bought that. I mean, it's always been. I mean, I remember being taken there as a little bitty girl, that you could get crackers and feed the goats and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how long that's been in the Busch family, but that's where the Clydesdales were. And at some point, somebody went in there and killed several of those animals.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly when that happened. I was going to look it up. You can't find anything about it. It's one of those truths about the Busch family that they have so much power, they can remove things from the media. I have a very dear friend in St. Louis, and she has a friend. That friend's mother is a descendant of the Busch family.
Oh, okay.
And she wanted to look into it. This is like over over 25 years ago, I was hearing about this, and her mother would keep hitting brick walls. She couldn't figure out, it's like, why can't I find out where this is, the trail ends? She couldn't get any more information. Turns out that the Bush family has pulled all of the records, all of the public records about themselves you can't get them.
Yeah.
They have them pulled. They're under lock and key. And so I don't know what all happened, but it finally came to the fact that they told her mother, you can find out about your, relationship to the family. You can find out your basic records, but you got to sign these legal forms.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot claim any type of money or do anything to claim anything of the Bush fortune. So everything that you had to sign away anything. And I don't know if she did it or not, but if you want to find out, if she wanted to find out her genealogy, she had to agree to all. And so I guess everything is in a legal office somewhere.
Wow.
And so that's the story of that. So like I said, I was going to try to find out, when did that happen? They've scrubbed everything of anything of that story of those animals. Now they have some Clydesdales in downtown St. Louis at the brewery. They have, I think, a few out at Grant's Farm. The main operation of them is out at the Boonville, Missouri. Where do they keep them? I don't know. And they really don't talk about that. So, because like I said, those animals, and there was all kinds of speculation as to why that happened back then. As I remember, I barely remember, details about it, but don't know, because it's not like that somebody went in and killed the animals. They didn't do anything else.
Right.
So it was almost like a mafia hit.
Yeah.
Who knows? So they have those animals under a lot of protection still.
Right.
Now, I think on game day, like today, you could have gone down there and they were there and you could see them. You can go, I don't know how close you can get to them, but you can actually see them in person. Right. Perhaps, I don't know if you have to be screened to go into an area where they're at or what, but anyway, they're highly protected. They do take them in parades, but it's the only ballpark where they let them, trot around. I don't know if they take them to other ballparks at other times, but on opening day, that's where the Clydesdales are going to be. So, and they trot around to that song. Do, 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 do. I'm not going to sing it because I don't have the right to it, but they're little.
The Budweiser theme.
Yeah, and it seems like they trot to that right to the rhythm.
They sure do.
So it's something else, but that explains the T-shirt. Anyway, so we will move on though to other things. Passover is going to be coming up actually a week from this Friday.
Yes.
Passover is going to be observed here at the congregation. Now, actually, Passover happens on April 1st, which Larry likes to remind us is he and Bridget's wedding anniversary. On April Fool's Day is their wedding anniversary. And my uncle, one of my uncles was born on April 1st, but we're going to do the observing of that on April 3rd. Let's put it that way. So, but we'll talk a little bit about that because I have some things in, it's called The Levitt Letter. Zola Levitt's letter. So I have a couple things in there. One article from the Bearded Bible Brothers. So we'll talk about that. And but I did want to talk a little bit about what I was beginning to catch on to. Let me read this little story first. Here by Emily Chang. I think this was a local Florida station, and it says the Democrats flips seat representing Mar-a-Lago's district in Florida special election. Florida. Democrat wins.
Yeah.
Democrat Emily Gregory won the Florida House District 87 special election, according to the Associated Press, flipping the district That includes President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate. In the Tuesday evening upset victory, Gregory was reported to have defeated the Trump-endorsed Republican John Maples by about 2.4 percentage points, according to the Associated Press. The Democrats' victory came in after the president, who had endorsed Maples, himself cast a mail-in ballot, according to public records, despite his years-long criticism of voting by mail. He turned to his social media platform on Monday to encourage voters to support Maples, calling the State House race a very important special election and emphasizing its location in Palm Beach County, where he spends much of his winter and just visited this past weekend. John is a very successful businessman and civic leader who is known and loved and also endorsed by so many of my Palm Beach County friends, the president added. Democrats were celebrating the flip as a major accomplishment leading to the midterms, while also touting the symbolic significance of a victory on the president's home turf. Mar-a-Lago just flipped red to blue, which should have Republicans sweating the midterms, Heather Williams, president of the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, said in a statement. A Trump plus 11 district in his own backyard shouldn't be in play for Democrats, but tonight proves Republicans are vulnerable everywhere. Williams also projected a positive outlook heading into the midterm, saying if Mar-a-Lago is vulnerable, imagine what's possible this November. This victory reiterates an undeniable trend in Florida with year-round organizing and infrastructure investment. Democrats can run and win anywhere, including Donald Trump's backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Florida Democrat Party Chair Nikki Fried said in a statement, Gregory, who is a small business owner and public health professional, told MS Now on Tuesday night that she still felt pretty shocked by the victory, that she didn't think much about the president being one of her constituents. Trump is one of 115,000 registered voters in District 87, she said. My opponent made, him forefront in his campaign, and I focused more on the voters in District 87, what everybody needs, what all of us will do better with low property insurance, with expanded health care, and with strong public schools. Now, how can you lower your property insurance and expand health care and strong public schools? What are you going to do with that? Because, of course, they don't have taxes down there in Florida. So it's to show, and why am I reading this? This is what they're doing. They're moving into these highly Republican districts. Big time money is probably, I would love to know the money behind her. Yeah. There all of these big time donors that want to take out Trump and all of his people are packing the money in. And this is, everybody needs to get involved. We just went past a primary, right?
Right.
I went and voted. But I was hearing the statistics, I believe, last night or one of the nights this week, not last night, but maybe the previous, like Tuesday evening, they were talking about all the statistics about how Christians just do not get involved in politics. They don't vote. They don't register to vote. Oh, they're above it. They're too pious. They don't want to get involved in this dirty politics. Oh, it's too worldly. Well, guess what? You're the ones that are supposed to be the salt and light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're supposed to be getting out there and picking out these candidates and making sure that you know who. Now, I'm not saying I don't know anything about this person who won. I don't know anything about her at all. She may be a fine person. Democrat, questionable as far as who knows? I don't know. Already she's talking about, more health care, more this, more that. But this is what they're doing. They're focusing on high Republican areas, and they're really wanting to take people out. So things are not, just because Donald Trump is out there don't sit back and think that, well, he's going to make sure that it all works out. No, you have to get involved. You have to find out who your local people are and make sure that you know those candidates and get the candidates in there that are going to be fiscally responsible and, not weirdos, let's put it that way, doing the whack job stuff that when they come in. You're seeing what's happening in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, Ramadan is being celebrated all throughout New York City right now. They're having all these prayer sessions all outside in the streets. They're taking dominion. But the thing I was going to say about this is that part of what they're doing here, and like I said, talked about last week, the Democrats are refusing to come to the table and vote and pay the employees. They won't pay anybody in the DHS, right? They claim, well, we want regulations on ICE. Okay, this is just the latest. They don't care about ICE. They don't care what ICE does. This is just the latest trick. And that's what I'm seeing. Everybody says, we can't, this is making the Democrats look bad. They can't believe what's happening. No. They have the media in lockstep with them. They've trumped up this phony, we're the self-righteous, we're the righteous ones, we're standing up for the little people kind of thing. And all of this stuff, they did this before, right? Where they blocked the government. They wouldn't vote on the reconciliation bill. Now we're not going to vote to fund DHS. And we're, until I guess to some point, maybe they have no motivation to end any of this.
Right.
Because what they're going to do with all of this chaos and turmoil is they keep saying, it's the Republicans' fault.
Oh, yeah.
It's Donald Trump's fault.
Yep.
Why these people, they're going to murder U.S. citizens. They come out with all this inflammatory speech.
Right.
And the news media laps it up and is all too eager to keep promoting it. Right. So blame the GOP. This is just their way to continue to stop the Trump agenda.
Right.
They found a little trick. Even if they solved this particular thing and got the TSA paid, people paid and everything funded, they'd find something else to shut the government down.
Right.
The point is just do anything in any way to keep the Trump agenda from doing. Nothing's happening.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
We in fact, one of the reporters on Fox was saying to one of the Senate people, we're getting tired of all of this. We see all of these indictments on these people for all of this fraud or whatever is going on. I think, that they find mismanagement of money or people stealing whatever, and they bring them before and they hold all these hearings and they bring all this stuff out and nothing's done.
Right.
Nobody gets held accountable for it. So the people are beginning to get tired of that. And then we have all of this situation of the chaos that nothing is getting done. Well, that's what the Democrats want. They don't want Donald Trump to get anything done. They don't want anything that they can do to throw. And like I said, I consider putting all of our personnel, they're trying to get all of those people to quit. They're trying to get all of them to be hamstrung, or who could go all that time without money?
Exactly.
And not pay their bills.
Yeah.
So they have to quit. And therefore, then, the Border Patrol people, all that means more people can come across the border, and the Border Patrol can't, do its job because they can't stay in the game, or the TSA. They're wanting some particular disaster to happen.
They want a terrorist attack.
They want all of that, a terrorist attack, something. And I consider that treasonous because they want that just for their political gain.
Right.
So they're putting citizens' lives at risk.
Yep.
And it's the Democrat side that's doing that. Yet the Democrats flip a district. So this propaganda is working, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, apparently.
Apparently these people are buying into this.
Right.
And, I just want to bring that to the fore. If you think, well, I really don't have to get involved in all this politics, and it doesn't matter if I vote or not. Oh, yes, it does. Because it only takes a little bit to flip from red to blue, and then they go hog wild on with their agendas. And so this is.
I want to know. I've got a question though, and I've got a question for our viewers. What is the answer to someone who is a Christian and considered an evangelical, who will not vote in an election. And they give the argument that, Jesus, Yeshua, rose up and he told Pilate and Pharaoh, no, not Pharaoh, but told Pilate, and I believe he also told King Herod, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God's. They consider that the first act of church versus state and the separation. And I'll be honest with you, I really don't have much of a reply to it.
Well,
I mean, I realize that the church and the state they were separated for keeping the state out of the church, not the church out of the state.
right.
However, if you've got that argument that Jesus probably wouldn't have voted if he had been alive, and you
They
want to
don't
be,
know that.
they don't know that, but if they're under that view, based on that statement, how do you get evangelicals to vote?
Here's my question. If you know to do good, and are you to do it? I mean, didn't Jesus go around, and that was the fight he was having with the religious leaders at the time?
Yeah.
That they were supposed to, they didn't want people healed on the Sabbath.
Right.
But he said, if you know to do good and you don't do it, isn't that a sin?
Right.
So if you are knowing that people are out there trying to push illegal aliens in, breaking the law, letting all of these people, if you know that if you're not for abortion and you're against abortion, but you sit out and won't, and all of these candidates get in who are for abortion, if you don't stand up, what would you do if there was a child that was in a bad situation? I'm not going to do anything because, just like the people that walked on the road, right? Eventually, Jesus said this pious guy walked along and saw that person that was hurt in the road, passed by, didn't want to get dirty because he had to go do his rituals in the temple. And, and finally the Samaritan, the hated one, that person came by and picked up the guy and put him in the hotel and fixed his wounds and paid his bills.
Right.
All of that sort of thing. It's like, it's the thing. If you sit out and you don't vote, it's as good as voting for the demonic that's out there. It's as good as you're giving your blessing to it by not standing up against it. Anything that's wrong and you don't stand up against it. I mean, look at Nazi Germany.
Yep.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer was the only one that stood up. The rest of the churches, we're not going to get involved in all of that politics. We're going to stay out of that. And a bunch of Jews died. Not just Jews either, but 6 million Jews died because nobody would stand up. In fact, they killed Bonhoeffer.
Yep.
So, okay, sit out. Don't vote. But you're endorsing the other side. So, I mean, that's my answer to it.
And there are a lot of Republicans who secretly don't want Trump to succeed either, in my opinion.
Right.
And why do I say that? Because it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like whenever the Republicans get in a majority role in both the House and the Senate, they don't do anything.
They're feckless.
They lead from behind. They listen to the Democrats and say, well, we have to do this.
Yep.
And that's what I get sick of.
Yeah, the uniparty that's involved.
Right. And, it's that's what's frustrating to me.
Yeah, they're too paid off. They're getting too much money from the same people.
Right. And I would say it's at least 50% of the Republicans are under that umbrella. They don't want Trump to succeed either. How do I know that? He's been impeached 3 separate times. And once when the Republicans had at least one side of the House, Mitt Romney, turncoat Mitt Romney.
Mm-hmm. So
So
I
if we're
bring these-
we need to get true conservatives in
Yeah.
in government is what we need.
Yeah. So when I'm pointing this out, these are the prayer concerns that I point this stuff out, not to just say this fist to the Democratic side or whatever. I'm saying we're at an impasse here. We're at an impasse that is harming this country, harming the people in this country. So there needs to be effective prayer against this demonic stronghold that this little game that these Democrats are playing that's harming people needs to be broken somehow. So we need to pray for wisdom from the Lord. And part of that is getting involved and voting in the people that need to be in. I mean, because otherwise the insanity is taking over. So we need prayer to break the strongholds, not just in Iran, but here.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the demonic over there operating that needs to be, we have the power of binding and loosing, right? So we need to bind these demonic things and loose what God wants.
Mm-hmm.
That's, of course, first you have to get in line with the Holy Spirit and what he wants. A lot of people in the church, they didn't like that Donald Trump, but that turned out to be God's man for the situation.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one with the loud mouth who will go out and do what needs to be done. I have an article in here, somebody saying that Senator Jim Banks, Trump is the first president bold enough to call China out as our enemy.
Right.
So, he's, and somebody, I think last night, I think it was Lance Wallnau said, when you see what Donald Trump has done, he said, no one man is that smart.
Right.
The things that he's done, obviously the Lord is using him to, from the beginning, reveal things and, go in there like a bull in a china closet and smash these sacred cows and things that are there and really, really tear things through because nobody else has been brave enough to do it.
Right.
He's doing politics, but he's not really a politician. He's just a guy in there who was frustrated, basically. And once he's gotten the opportunity, he was not a career politician. I mean, he knew a lot about politics. He was saying a lot of things about Iran years ago that the same thing he's saying right now. They've dug out tapes. He has not changed one iota. He's observed things. He's a problem solver. And he's gone in there and he's really busting things up. I got a kick out of, I think, Amir Tsarfati. Today, Donald Trump has announced that he's going to extend the deadline, not 5 days, but 10 days before he takes out the electrical plants in Iran, And yet, the 82nd Airborne, or the 82nd, is it the 82nd Airborne that's on its way?
Yeah.
The Marines are on their way. All these people that are on their way. Amir Tsarfati saying, he may be saying that he's going to negotiate, but he doesn't, with what he sees is going on, evidently we're going to be headed into one heck of a battle here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, remember that when it happened in Operation Midnight Hammer, he said he was going to give him 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't 2 weeks.
It wasn't 2 weeks.
So we'll see.
It could be this weekend.
It could be this weekend.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens here. But this is what's happened from the Jewish News Syndicate. That what's going on with Israel. They have titled this one "Extensive Israeli Strikes Target Iranian Military Industries." And it says here, the IDF on Wednesday conducted a wave of extensive strikes targeting regime infrastructure across Iran, including Tehran, Isfahan, and other industrial hubs, in a wave of attacks in the area of the capital. The military hit regime sites for the production of aerial and naval combat equipment. According to a statement, the sites were also said to have produced arms for Tehran's regional proxies, including the Palestinian Hamas, Lebanese Hezbollah, and other terror groups, probably the Houthis as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the regime's aerial defense array, including an anti-aircraft system, were attacked, the IDF said. The IDF will continue to intensify damage to the regime's military industry in order to deny production capabilities built up over the years. Yes, we found out they could produce a missile that went what? Has a potential of going 4,000 miles or something like that. They could hit right in the middle of Europe.
Yep.
They said, oh, we don't have that capability, but yet we found out, right? Mm-hmm. They do.
They do.
So it says here that the military on Wednesday night shared footage showing the damage caused to the regime sites during almost 4 weeks of fighting, including in recent Israeli Air Force strikes on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps headquarters. Ooh. A large base of its besieged paramilitary volunteer force, a ballistic missile plant.
Yeah.
And Iran's aerial defense industrial complex. Meanwhile, the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Wednesday that the U.S. military's Operation Epic Fury against Iran was ahead of the 4 to 6 week timeline Washington had set for the war. I didn't know they'd set any timeline, but I guess 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exceptionally, she said. We are very close to meeting the core objectives of Operation Epic Fury, and this military mission continues unabated. U.S. President Donald Trump told a National Republican Congressional Committee fundraising event on Wednesday that we're winning so big nobody's ever seen anything like we're doing in the Middle East with Iran. They want to make a deal so badly, but they're afraid to say it because they figure they'll be killed by their own people. They're also afraid they'll be killed by us, Trump told attendees. There's never been a head of a country that wanted the job less than being the head of Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's true. He said Washington and Jerusalem launched Operation Epic Fury Roaring Lion against the Islamic Republic on February 28th. With the goal of neutralizing the threats posed by Tehran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs, as well as toppling the regime that calls for the destruction of America and Israel. Trump on Tuesday described the targeted killing of so many of Iran's leaders, including Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei, as de facto regime change that could enable more productive negotiations. Now we have a new group, he said. Let's see how they turn out.
Yeah.
Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who is reportedly leading ongoing diplomatic talks with the U.S., has praised Hamas's October 7th, 2023 massacre of some 1,200 people as a victory and recently threatened to make the Persian Gulf run with the blood of invaders if Washington targeted regime assets on the islands there. Yeah, they haven't backed down at all, it seems. There was an article, and I was going to, I don't know if I still have that pulled up or not. I don't think I do. But I'm going to run through here real quick because it was some of the concern that there, I think it was here, I had said, okay, according to, this is from Amir Sarfati, he had pinned this. He said, according to estimates, Iran has 27 missile cities dug deep underground. Israelis and Americans constantly attack the entrances to these missile cities, knowing that it is almost impossible to hit the complexes themselves. Now that's our problem.
Right.
In some cases, satellite images show that the Iranians managed to reopen the bombed access points within just 48 hours, using engineering equipment deployed to the area. Okay? A good example is the missile city of Yazd, which has been extensively attacked since the beginning of the war. The missile city is located deep under a granite rock mountain, making the task of hitting the complex extremely difficult. So here's our problem with them. They're just like Hamas, right? The tunnels.
Sure.
These people, and I wish I could show you the picture, have entire city complexes for these missile launches and things under mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, what was that movie, The Guns of Navarone or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that they had, you know, all of that stuff in the mountains. You need to get in those mountains to blow those things up.
There's also a James Bond movie, From Russia with Love.
Yes. And so that's kind of what you're dealing with here. So everybody wants this war over. Oh, we've met our goals and everything. So we need to, like, shut it off. No, there's some intense things in there that I'm afraid that need to be really. You would have to have Mossad go in there and do similar things to what they did to the people. They need to go into those bunker type places and just destroy them from within. And that's what you'd have to do. The destruction would have to be from within all of that. Otherwise, those are protected. Like they say, they can reopen the entrances within a couple days and they're still in business. And that's the problem we've got right now. So
I said it was From Russia with Love. It's You Only Live Twice. It's in a it's the setting. His preparation, James Bond's preparation, was in Japan, and there was a missile silo inside of a mountain, and he had to get inside it and destroy it.
Right. So that's what needs to be done in this particular situation. From Breitbart. Trump says Iran is begging for a deal. President Donald Trump said Thursday that he is extending the pause on the strikes of Iranian energy plants by 10 days, hours after stating that Iran is begging to make a deal in the fourth week of Operation Epic Fury. Again, is he really, is he setting the stage for something else coming along here?
Mm-hmm.
They said that the Karg Island I think that's how they pronounce it, Karg. That's where they really, I think, are going to be sending in Marines. They want to get control of that. That is where the fuel from Iran, is controlled, basically. Well, they said that they've hardened all of that around there with the Iranian military stuff. So and they're already saying they're expecting loss of life on the part of American soldiers. So, again, another prayer point while we're praying against all of this going on here, add into the protection of our military, because I think that that's probably what's going to happen is Trump is going to go in there and get control of that island.
Yep.
And then when he does, then he will have leverage over these people, whoever's left running Iran.
Right.
They're just as cohesive as the Democrats. They've taken out multiple tiers of these people, these so-called leaders that they have, but they're still together and they're still banded with their whatever you want to call their insane military religious delusions, I guess. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, they want to take over the world.
Yeah, they want to take over the world. They want, from what I understand, with their idea of their Messiah, which they call the Mahdi, they want the only way that the Mahdi is going to come back, which from what I understand, he was this little kid who was spirited away and put in a well 1,000 years ago. I don't know how long ago.
Well, yeah, they rewrote Joseph.
They did. They put him in a well, and so they're waiting for his return. And the only way he's going to come back and take over as their Messiah is for, the whole world to be in chaos. And so that's their goal, is to eventually start worldwide chaos and destruction, but they'll be the supreme part of it.
Right.
That kind of thing.
And it's all demonic because it's never going to stop.
Right.
Once let's take this farther. Okay, let's say they do destroy everybody and they do take over the world. Now they're going to have a competition as who is the most Muslim, who is the purest Muslim.
Right. Well, they do that now.
Yeah, and and everybody's going to kill each other until there's only one guy left.
Right.
And it's like no, it's like, let's just stop them now and be done with it.
Right. That's like. That's the descendants of Esau, right?
Yeah,
he's a donkey of a man.
And it's
I keep saying about Yael, our tour guide over in Israel, is pointing to those Palestinian neighborhoods or those Muslim neighborhoods, and she goes, "You see that over there, and that family, and you see that over there." And she said, "If they're not warring with us, they're warring with each other. They can't even live in peace across the street from each other."
Right.
So,
right. And it's like Hitler and Mussolini and Hirohito. they all three knew that once they took over the world, that there would be a war between the three of them.
Right.
So,
Yep.
let's just stop it now.
Right. So it says here, shortly before entering the East Room of the White House for a Greek Independence Day celebration, the president took to Truth Social to announce the extension that he's supposedly extending to Iran. And he says, as per Iranian government request, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Wow.
Right after Easter, right?
Right.
Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Thank you for your attention to this matter, the president added. Trump's comments came hours after he had told reporters that Iran desperately wants a deal to end the war. We estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission. 26 days in, we're really a lot ahead of schedule. The Iranian regime is now admitting to itself that they've been decisively defeated. They're saying to people, this is a disaster. They know it. That's why they're talking to us, and they wouldn't talk otherwise. But they're talking to us because they've got a disaster on their hands. They're defeated. They can't make a comeback, he said. The president stressed that Iran has to make the right deal. They now have a chance to make a deal, but that's up to them. They'll tell you, we're not negotiating. We'll not negotiate. Of course they're negotiating. They've been obliterated, he said. Who wouldn't negotiate? Well, they haven't quite been obliterated. Like I said, the concern is those things in the mountains. And where's the uranium? Are they talking about the uranium? That's the other thing. Yes, they have the oil, but they also have this uranium. Where is it? Where's all of it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's a dangerous thing we're dealing with here. And it says they are begging to make a deal. We'll see if we can make the right deal, and they make the right deal. Then the strait will open up. Hormuz Strait will open up, he added. That's not all the problem, though. Like I said, the problem is with that uranium, enriched uranium. They have enough to make 11 bombs, 11 nuclear weapons.
Right.
So, but this is an interesting development as well. The Israel and the Gulf states are pressuring Washington to hold the line on Iran. And it says Israel and at least 2 Gulf states have been conducting direct high-level diplomatic contacts through the war, contacts that have intensified sharply in recent days as the White House signals potential progress in talks with Iran. 3 diplomatic sources in the region and the West have told Israel Hayom. The Gulf states and Israel have been coordinating their messaging to the Trump administration with a single unified goal: to prevent a ceasefire from being reached before Iran has accepted a set of baseline conditions that the White House itself put forward. According to 3 diplomatic sources in the region and the West, these contacts, which have run throughout the war and have grown more frequent in recent days, are designed to deliver coordinated messages, align military and diplomatic moves, and lay the groundwork for future political progress. They take place at a senior diplomatic level. The contacts have intensified following President Trump's announcements of progress in talks with Iran and the possibility of a ceasefire to allow negotiations. Trump announced that he would not carry out the 2-day ultimatum to bomb Iran's power plants and instead give the Tehran regime a new ultimatum of 5 days to accept the terms of the proposed framework and enter talks. Now it's extended to 10 days, right? Iran stalled for time and ultimately announced it would not accept the American paper, but did not completely shut the door. In the past 24 hours, the possibility has emerged that talks could open regardless of Iran's denials and that a ceasefire could be declared as part of the process. Based on information reaching Israel Hayom from diplomatic sources, Israel and the Gulf states have presented Washington with a unified position. Before any commitment to a ceasefire, Iran must agree to a set of fundamental conditions. Most of those conditions have already been publicly stated by President Trump and other senior administration officials, and according to some reports, have included in the American paper that Iran rejected. They include an advanced commitment to dismantling Iran's military nuclear power, including transferring enriched uranium to the IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog, destroying all sites associated with the program, and establishing tight international oversight to prevent its renewal, as well as sharp restrictions on Iran's missile program. The conditions also include an Iranian commitment to halt military hostility toward regional states, including through its affiliated terrorist organizations, along with deterrence mechanisms in the event of a violation, and the guarantee of completely free passage through the Strait of Hormuz, free from any military threat. According to the information, the contacts between Israel and at least 2 Gulf states involve senior diplomatic figures. It can be assessed that on the Israeli side, these include Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Minister Ron Dermer, whom Netanyahu has recently recalled for a reserve duty role for the duration of the war. Now, it's interesting, before all this kind of started coming along, of course, this Board of Peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the realignment of the nations. Now you've got Gulf states. Saudi Arabia could be with this, dealing directly with Israeli diplomats. So you're seeing a internal realigning all as well. I mean, nobody wants to talk out publicly yet, but we'll see how these things. Again, I watch all of these things and all of these things that are being said. How is this setting up for Ezekiel 38:39? How is this setting up toward the end time? Because this whole thought about just a European Union is seemingly, that's sort of fading. It's not going away, but it's sort of fading. And we've got this realignment going on here with these Middle Eastern Gulf states and Israel and all of that as well over this problem with Iran. The countries with, it says here, Trump, this is his March 26, 2026. The Iranian negotiations are very different and strange. This is what Trump posted on Truth Social. They are begging us to make a deal, which they should be doing since they have been militarily obliterated with zero chance of a comeback, and yet they publicly state that they are only looking at our proposal. Wrong. They better get serious soon before it's too late, because once that happens, there is no turning back, and it won't be pretty. President DJT. So he's talking, like they say, out of both sides of his mouth. He's talking, oh yeah, we've got a deal going. Oh, but, the countries with which Israel maintains direct and public ties are the Abraham Accord states, which is the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. According to foreign reports, a covert channel of some degree also exists with Saudi Arabia. That's what I thought. In the broader circle of dialogue are also Jordan and Egypt, both of which have been affected by the war and by Iran's moves. Egypt has drawn criticism from Gulf states for not fully siding with them and is now attempting to position itself as a mediator between Iran and the U.S. See, shuffling around, reordering things, right? This joint effort has received acknowledgement and understanding within the Trump administration, which is awaiting Iran's response to the American position paper. Trump told Thursday on True Social that the Iranian negotiators are very different and strange. And I read all of that to you. The UAE ambassador to Washington, Youssef Al-Otaiba, published an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal in which he effectively rejected any ceasefire without preconditions and declared his country's readiness to intensify efforts across all domains, including military, to counter Iran's attacks. Al-Otaiba explicitly defined the removal of the Iranian threat as a fundamental condition for any ceasefire or any future agreement. Now, isn't that interesting how Donald Trump has got all these nations to come around to seeing things his way, right? And this guy says a simple ceasefire is not enough. We need a decisive outcome that addresses the full range of Iran's threats, nuclear capabilities, missiles, drones, terror proxy, and the blockades of international sea lanes. We want Iran to be a normal neighbor. It can be reclusive and even unfriendly, but it cannot attack its neighbors, block international waters, or export extremism. Well, what do you think? My. More than a hint of Gulf concern about a premature ceasefire can be found in the stream of statements from their embassies in Washington and foreign ministries. Among the most prominent was an announcement that the UAE had joined the American coalition to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. They joined, huh? The statement said the UAE rejects a ceasefire with Iran without preconditions and demands first. And says, of course, The Strait of Hormuz is a vital artery for global oil and reaffirmed a commitment to $1.4 trillion in investment in the United States from the UAE, the Gulf states have so far refrained from direct strikes against Iran, limiting themselves to defensive operations, but that picture may change. Anwar Gargash, the senior political advisor to UAE ruler Mohammed bin Zayed, said Thursday that attacks against the civilians, infrastructure, and energy and maritime navigation security will not go unanswered, and made clear that the right to self-defense is guaranteed. Doing more than England it has, We don't want to get involved, Saudi Arabia has also moved to consolidate a unified Gulf position. The Saudi embassy published a joint and sharply worded condemnation on Thursday. It says the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the State of Qatar, the State of Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, the King of Bahrain, and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan renew their condemnation in the strongest terms of the blatant Iranian attacks, which constitute a flagrant cutoff there. But anyway, they've joined in this statement. A flagrant violation of their sovereignty and territorial integrity. There's the end of it, of international law, of international humanitarian law, and of the UN Charter, whether carried out directly or through proxies and armed factions supported by Tehran. The statement further emphasized that attacks carried out by armed factions loyal to Iran from Iraqi soil against regional states and their facilities constitute a violation of international laws and conventions, as well as a violation of the UN Security Council Resolution 2817, which calls on Iran to immediately and unconditionally halt all attacks or threats against neighboring states. Interesting. I find that interesting. But then we have another story here. So, and this might be telling us something here. You see the Straits of Hormuz there, that little kink in things. It says here, the U.S. said mulling final blow options if Iran talks fail. And they're including sending troops to seize key assets. I think that's more what's going on, and it's going to be going on throughout this weekend. The U.S. is working on options for a final blow to Iran that could see American ground troops deployed on Iranian soil, as well as a major bombing effort, the Axios outlet reported Thursday, citing 2 U.S. officials and 2 sources with knowledge of the matter. The sources said that if attempts to negotiate an end to the conflict with Iran do not bear fruit, and the Iranians continue to hamper shipping in the Straits of Hormuz, the U.S. could initiate a major strike that would serve a dual purpose, improving the American position in possible future talks with Tehran and potentially allowing U.S. President Donald Trump to end the war unilaterally with an ostensible victory image. The officials told Axios that 4 options are under discussion. This is coming from the Times of Israel. The first would entail seizing or blockading the Karg Island, and it's spelled K-H-A-R-G, Karg, Iran's key hub for the export of oil. A second would be to take Larik Island in the Straits of Hormuz, which houses Iranian bases and radars that track ships transiting the Hormuz and hosts small boats that can attack civilian ships. Tehran has largely blocked the passage of oil through the vital strait in retaliation for the U.S.-Israeli attacks, pushing up global energy prices. A third possibility would be to invade Abu Musa Island in the eastern Persian Gulf, which gives Iran control over ships leaving the Gulf. The island and nearby Greater and Lesser Toomb Islands are held by Iran but claimed by the United Arab Emirates, a key U.S. and Israeli ally. And finally, the U.S. could simply blockade or take control of ships exporting Iranian oil. Sounds like to me, though, that, if they take all of these islands, that there can be a new Trump resorts line along the Persian Gulf, right?
Yep.
There's
your new Riviera right there. You thought it was Gaza. It's not.
You just go right on through there. Trump resorts on the island of Karg, Trump resorts on the island of Larik Island,
And coming soon to Greenland.
Yes, there you go. There you go. According to Axios, there's also plans under consideration for the U.S. troops to seize Iran's 450-kilogram stockpile of highly enriched uranium. believed to be sitting under bombed-out nuclear facilities deep inside Iran. Alternatively, the U.S. could further strike the sites from the air to ensure that Iran can't reach the material. Yeah, but they've also got these other cities under mountains too, so who knows where that stuff is, right?
Mm-hmm.
The report came as sources familiar with the U.S. intelligence told CNN that Iran was raising military defenses on Karg Island in anticipation of a possible U.S. operation to seize the territory. Tehran has been laying traps, moving military personnel, and boosting air defenses amid fears of an American plan to take control of the island, which handles about 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. You see, moving military somebody has to be controlling all of this.
Right.
Who is that person?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not coming to the surface yet, are they? They've got these other people that are supposedly negotiating, but I want to know who's that.
Who's the general?
Yes.
Who is the general?
Because somebody's in there making decisions.
Yep.
A source familiar with the planning said that a significant number of troops would be needed to take the island, putting its size at about a third of that of Manhattan. The U.S. officials and military experts have warned of significant casualty risks, saying the island is heavily fortified with layered defenses that Iran has recently reinforced it with additional shoulder-fired surface-to-air guided missile systems known as MANPADS, according to CNN. This is when you need percussion weaponry, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kind that can go boom and take the people out,
yep,
but not harm the surrounding buildings and structures. The report came as the Trump administration said that it had made progress with Iran on a 15-point U.S. plan for ending the conflict, though Tehran has publicly reacted coldly to the proposal. I know also that guy that his name is Aragchi or something like that. I think they had a hit out on him. He's that spokes guy that keeps coming out. But I saw somewhere, and I don't remember if I got the article or not, that the U.S. has pulled back on possibly wanting to take him out. There's certain people that they've pulled back on taking them out. So regardless of the talks' progress, the U.S. has deployed 1,000 paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division and 5,000 Marines toward the Gulf, with the Marines traveling on the USS Tripoli, an assault ship that could play a key role in the potential attack on Karg. You ought to see, there was a graphic today because President Trump was on the 5, and they had a graphic of that whole area, of all of our people that are there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just the USS Tripoli. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just amazing of all of our equipment that's there.
I'm sure we've got about at least half the Navy there.
They just, so many names up there that was almost covering the entire map, completely over. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, I guess, reported to be the top man in Tehran with whom Trump has been in indirect negotiations, warned on Wednesday that Iran was preparing for such an assault, writing on X that based on some intelligence reports, Iran's enemies are preparing to occupy one of the Iranian islands with support from one of the regional states. Ghalibaf did not name the state. Our forces are monitoring all enemy movements, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Trump has not publicly ruled out the option of taking Karg, a move he had advocated for during the Iran-Iraq war in the 1980s. He has. He did. Trump told The Guardian in a 1988 interview that should he ever become U.S. president, I'd be harsh on Iran. They've been beating us psychologically, making us look like a bunch of fools. One bullet shot at one of our men or ships, and I'd do a number on Karg Island. I'd go in and take it, he said. And he may yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Trump said Thursday, Iran must get serious soon if it wants to salvage talks. And, of course, we've been talking more about that. Trump has raged at NATO throughout the war. Last week he wrote, without the U.S., NATO is a paper tiger. They didn't want to join the fight to stop a nuclear-powered Iran. Now the fight is militarily won with very little danger for them. According to reports, some NATO countries like the UK and France are discussing plans to lead a Hormuz coalition. Oh, now they are, huh? Mm-hmm. Other NATO countries have expressed an openness to join as well. So, now that it's looking like, well, maybe it's not such a bad idea, well, they were not very helpful in the beginning of this. And this is the UN Nuclear Agency boss, Rafael Grossi. He's the head of the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, told an Italian newspaper on Wednesday that he believes that governments of Iran and the United States could hold talks to end their current conflict as recently as this weekend, mediated by Pakistan, of all places, right? I think there could be talks in Islamabad, Pakistan this weekend, Grossi told Italy's Corriere della Sera. Grossi predicted that any talks between Washington and Tehran would include a wide range of topics, from neutralizing Iran's ability to promote international terrorism to limiting its illicit nuclear development, as well as Iran's demands for the United States to lift sanctions on the rogue Islamist regime. Grossi is the head of the United Nations agency tasked with ensuring that countries following international law on nuclear development. As such, he has for years taken on a protagonist role in addressing the ongoing threat of Iran obtaining nuclear weapons. The Iranian regime insists that it is only interested in developing civilian nuclear energy production. No, they bragged to Donald Trump that they could make 11 nukes, you know. So I think that whole thing has just kind of gone out the window. But he's saying that there's a possibility of talks this weekend in Pakistan. So I think that I find that very interesting. Now I think I lost track of it. Where is it? I might have actually, maybe I could find it easier this way. I think that Amir actually put out a newsletter this week, and I think I sent it to myself. But anyway, let's see if I can find this quickly. I'm not doing too well. Hang on here. Go into the all mailboxes. No, let's go away from this and see if I can just see. There we go. I found it quicker than I thought.
Awesome.
There we go. And this is Keeping Up with Behold Israel. And this is his weekly newsletter from March 19th to March 26th. And this is Amir Tsarfati, right? And he goes, Shalom from the beautiful Jezreel Valley. That's where he is. Is the war winding down? If you listen to the words out of Washington, you might think it's a possibility. However, if you look at the skies outside of my house, you'd question that conclusion. So, my life and that of most in Israel is an ongoing cycle of sleepless nights, interrupted work, and many, many trips to the bomb shelter. It's an exhaustive cycle, but one that we all understand is a necessary price for a peaceful future. But that vision of an Israel free of enemies in the Middle East certainly shines less brightly when you're having to gather the family together in a reinforced concrete room at 3 a.m. This will pass. That's a truth I know and cling to with assurance. My God has covenanted to care for his people. He united us once again in this land, one that he eternally promised Abraham's descendants. Others may desire to drive us out, but by his strength we will remain. This is just one more storm that we will weather, confident in our never-failing Father. From Job 19:25-27, for I know that my Redeemer lives, and he shall stand at last on the earth. And after my skin is destroyed, this I know, that in my flesh I shall see God, whom I see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another, how my heart yearns within me. And so now he's going to go keeping up with the news here. U.S. President Donald Trump has presented Iran with a 15-point plan that could bring an end to the conflict. Iran has already rejected the proposal and presented their own offer with terms that make it seem as if they are actually victors in this war. What will happen? When the U.S. plan was offered by Trump on Monday, he gave 5 days for Iran to accept, or he would order devastating strikes on the nation's energy facilities. If you follow my Telegram channel, you will know exactly what will happen when this deadline ends. If you don't follow me yet, now is the time. My vision for my Telegram channel is a real-time news as it happens. And by the way, if you don't want to make use of the Telegram app, you can see all of my posts on our Telegram landing page. And he's got links to all of that. So I don't know how to give that to you. You just have to follow him on Telegram. Get the Telegram app. And then he says, I've received many messages asking if this is the Ezekiel 38 war. It's not. For that great conflict, Israel will face an unbeatable foe, and they will do so without any allies. It is a deadly predicament that can only be solved through the invention of the supernatural. This coming war stands unique amongst global conflicts. This is why Steve Yon and I were so anxious to write this book, The Next War. This book follows Mossad agent Nir Tavor as Israel ultimately comes to terms with the fact that they are in a no-win situation. The first book in the Nir Tavor Tribulation series, The Next War, sets the stage for a first-hand experience of 7 years of God's judgment seen through the eyes of a Jew in Israel. And so he encourages you to pre-order his book today, right? So he does something similar to what Joel Rosenberg does. He writes books with a character, a hero in this, I guess, is called Nir Tavor. And then he writes these books, and that it gives you an idea of what he thinks will actually happen through this, through a fictional account. So that's, I guess, the way he's done it. You can say the same thing. Jonathan Cahn does that with his books. He has the teacher and the student, and you see biblical truths through these characters, but you're still getting the idea of what the whole thing is actually what he's thinking of in biblical terms. He says, Japan, I'm on my way. And he's actually in Japan right now. He's going to speak in Tokyo, Nagano, Hokkaido, and Osaka. And then he's got a cruise coming up. And then he says, keeping us in prayer. It's very difficult boarding a plane on a journey that will eventually carry me to Japan, knowing that I'm leaving my family behind during this unresolved conflict. Please pray for them, for the faithful media team at Connect, and for all the people in Israel. So he just had a little update there. So I encourage you to follow Amir. There's so much when you go through his feed. So I just don't know how he physically does all of that and how he keeps that thing going, plus traveling and speaking and all of that sort of stuff to keep all of the information coming. That's how I find out most of what I'm able to bring to you through what he is able to share. This is coming from Breitbart, exclusive. Senator Tom Cotton. He says China, Iran are allies in fighting U.S. leadership of the international order. And it says Breitbart News hosted a policy discussion on Thursday focused on threats posed by China and the Chinese Communist Party. Yeah, we get all the distracted with Iran, but we can't forget about this, right?
Right.
Where Senator Tom Cotton said China and Iran have been allies and share a goal of opposing the United States as the dominant global power. The event, titled China, the Threats You Know About and the Ones You Don't, included Washington Bureau Chief Matt Boyle asking Cotton to explain how China is connected to the conflict with Iran, including its role related to the Strait of Hormuz and how it factors into broader U.S. actions. Cotton described a long-standing relationship between China and Iran and framed it as rooted in a mutual objective. China and Iran have been allies for some time now. One thing they have in common, despite their many differences, is that they don't want to have the U.S. calling the shots in their international order. They don't want the United States to be the dominant superpower. China wants to be that, and Iran is happy to help them achieve that, Cotton said. He pointed to energy and military cooperation between the two countries as part of that relationship. In other words, it's on another one. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they've paired up, because I can't imagine that this Iranian regime that thinks it's the top in the chain of the Muslims and thinks that they're the only right Muslims would want to have anything to do with this communist secular China, right? The communist Chinese who kill Uyghur Muslims, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but yet they're buddies in all of this, huh?
Well, the Iranians probably think of the Uyghurs as infidels anyway. They're probably not pure enough. So it's like, oh, we don't have a problem with that.
But anyway, it's, politics makes strange bedfellows, right? One way they've done that over the years is Iran exports a lot, the lion's share of its black market oil, to China through various means, like ship-to-ship transfers and small refineries that are somewhat off the grid in China to help China on its huge energy needs, he continued. China, in return, has helped send arms to Iran. Cotton added that the cooperation extends into broader regional activity. Over the years, they've collaborated in ways in the Middle East as well, again, to try to upset the American-led order there with Israel and with our Arab friends. The Arkansas senator also addressed the ongoing conflict involving Iran and the U.S. and allied actions in the region, describing the rationale behind the recent military decisions. But the president, as he has said many times, launched this war with Israel against Iran because Iran's nuclear program, vast missile arsenal, posed unacceptable risk to the United States and existential risk to our friends in the region, Cotton said. He cited missile developments as an example of the threat environment. A good example that I've been talking about for some time was the intermediate range ballistic missile that was shot at Diego Garcia, our base in the Indian Ocean. As we just had testimony this morning at the Armed Services Committee, it is a very small step, not a very big technological step, from having an intermediate range missile that could hit a base in the Indian Ocean to having an intercontinental ballistic missile that could hit the United States. And that step is measured in months, not years. Cotton said actions taken by Iran in strategic waterways and recent military developments should be viewed in the context of broader security considerations. The main reason President Trump took the steps he did and what Iran has done in the Strait of Hormuz and taking that shot at Diego Garcia is not a reason to step back or ask for a ceasefire. It's a reason to see it through, he said. As President Trump has said, we can't allow a revolutionary terrorist regime to continue to hold one of the world's most strategic waterways, all the Middle East, and increasingly all the world at risk using, in some cases, Chinese technology. Like I said before, there's a reason President Trump delayed his meeting with Xi. Mm-hmm. He said, to concentrate on the war. No, Xi is tied in with Iran. Mm-hmm. And it would not be a good time to sit there and try to negotiate with China over anything, right? Because you've got to know to the extent their partnership. And I had teased this one earlier. It says President Donald Trump is the first modern president to hold enough. He says President Donald Trump is the first modern president bold enough to call China our enemy. Senator Jim Banks, Republican, Indiana, told Breitbart News Washington bureau chief Matthew Boyle Thursday during a big event in Washington, D.C. on the China threat. Same thing with Senator Tom Cotton was at. Right off the bat, Banks praised Trump for being the first president of our lifetime to take the threat of China seriously. First of all, President Trump is the first president of our lifetime that's taken the China threat seriously. I remember on the campaign trail in 2016, just to go back in history a bit, 10 years ago was 2016. Wow.
Yeah.
The primary between Cruz and Trump came down to Indiana, he explained, noting that Indiana is the top manufacturing state in the country. My dad is a retired union factory worker, and when Donald Trump came to Indiana on the campaign trail to Hoosiers, he talked about China is our biggest enemy. It's the biggest threat to our jobs, to the American-made economy, he said, noting his father never heard a politician talk like that before, except for Ross Perot. Remember Ross Perot? Mm-hmm. My dad had the Ross Perot sticker on the pickup truck when I was a little kid, and he didn't get excited about another candidate until Trump. Trump, Banks continued, carried that philosophy through his first term, explaining it was the first time the nation had a president who did not call China our friend, called them our enemy and a threat. He rewrote the national security strategy to reorient our military priorities around China and made up a lot of ground and made up for a lot of mistakes that previous presidents, Republican and Democrat, had made to strengthen China's hand over the United States, the senator said. Again, referring to Greenland, this is Trump's motivation for wanting Greenland, Russia, and China. Mm-hmm. And probably even more so China. So Trump was the first president of either party who took this seriously. A lot was done on the military in the first term before all the goofy stuff happened on the Russian collusion and impeachments and all that stuff, Banks said, explaining that Trump's second term is focused on the economic picture. The second term is all about the economic, the tariff picture, the reorienting global trade around the world to put American interests ahead of China, he said, and that quickly got China's attention. Why? Because Trump is one of the few politicians in D.C. who's not bought by China.
Mm-hmm.
The turtle, right? Mitch McConnell is married to a Chinese woman.
Yep.
Whose family is thoroughly rooted in all of that stuff in China.
Yep.
So he does not like his money being cut off. And there's a lot of these people in business that they like all that money coming in from China.
The Clintons.
Yes.
While he was in office, he was getting campaign contributions from China. And it is fact. It is not rumor.
Right.
It is fact.
And so China's been buying our elections. We've got all of these people like the Soros groups trying to buy our elections. We've got so much money's coming into these people.
The Clintons are the main reason
Right.
that North Korea has a bomb.
Right.
They were sharing our nuclear secrets with China, and China in turn shared it with North Korea.
Right.
And that is a fact.
Yep. Fun. Oh,
Yes.
well, it's just where the money goes. And the circular thing, like I said, all of these Democrats doing all of this stuff is treasonous.
Yeah.
Why? Because they don't want to be out of power, because they like all this money and all this power.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to set you and I up to be in dangerous situations, be it at airports or people coming across the border or whatever, because of all of this chaos, just so they can stay in power. They wanted all the people coming over the border because they wanted to throw elections.
Right.
They have more. That's their concern. They don't care about those people personally. They just want the numbers in there because it only takes a few thousand here and there and strategically placed to throw red states to blue,
right,
and to keep them in power.
Right. And Bill Clinton's response was, "Well, we can't be the only ones to have the bomb. We need to share it with other countries." Translation: Chinese was giving me a lot of money. Yep. And I gave them the technology. I didn't know they were going to share it with North Korea, but what are we going to do about it now? I got a lot of money.
Right. So, yep. That's where it all comes from. You wonder why these people are, they come in and they're making average incomes and then they go out millionaires.
Right.
And some of, like Bernie, billionaires, right?
Right.
Well, he's a multimillionaire. He's not a billionaire yet, I don't think. But that's where it comes from. All that money under the table. And that's the problem why we've got what we call a uniparty. That's why you see feckless Republicans. They're not conservative and they don't have morals. I'm sorry. Their morals, they're feeding off the trough of all of this that's coming in too.
Right.
So I have the current Levitt letter. This is actually the April 2026 Levitt letter. And it's got a lot of things in here about Passover and Easter. I'm going to skip over that article. But there is one in here by Ariel Randall saying the significant connections between Passover and Easter. But we've got our own Passover going to be coming up. So we'll see what goes on from there. And maybe a lot of that article will be covered by our upcoming celebration of Passover. But this one is written by Joshua and Caleb Colson. They are the Bearded Bible Brothers, and they basically have taken over the they call the show now the Bearded Bible Brothers. They don't call it what they originally had with Zola Levitt's ministries. I can't remember what the name of what they were calling Zola's program before, but I think it was just Zola Levitt Presents. But anyway, but they have this article here, and I thought it's called Pesach, which means Passover, crown jewel or sacred cow. I find it and say, what's this about? And they say Pesach, Hebrew for Passover, has come. Zola Levitt once declared that Passover is the crown jewel of the feasts of the Lord. Most Jewish people, whether religious or not, observe the yearly Passover Seder because it's tradition. Tradition. Da-da-dum-da. Anyway, Fiddler on the Roof. Yep.
Tradition.
Yep. And you're not Jewish if you don't follow the tradition. Tradition is the sacred cow of Judaism that cannot be touched. Yet many Jewish traditions aren't biblically based, and some are even downright pagan. Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
If we declared that the modern Passover Seder had been infiltrated by pagan symbolism, you'd probably hear a pin drop. The fear in our Gentile audience's eyes would be palpable, but the rage in our Jewish brethren's eyes would be arresting. And we're not even referring to the progressive additions to the Seder plate that include an orange for the LGBTQ plus equality, a banana for refugees, and fair trade chocolate. Sadly, all of these are true. Oh my gosh, they're adding an orange to the Seder plate for the LGBTQ crowd. Oh, great. Not surprisingly, Zola also highlighted the Babylonian influence on the Seder plate with the inclusion of the egg. Other than the maror, bitter herbs, the other items on the plate are inventions of Judaism, which were influenced by the Babylonian Talmud and the ancient Babylonian mystic cult. Most of the symbolic Passover foods point to spring, rebirth of the pagan deity Tammuz, and fertility, all originating from the Babylonian New Year Akita festival. Oh my gosh, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Satan has meticulously woven pagan Babylonian religious influences throughout Catholicism, Islam, and yes, even Christian holidays such as Ishtar's feast, Easter. The mystic influence on Judaism goes beyond the Seder plate. Rituals like dipping a finger in wine and sprinkling it to represent the 10 plagues is an ancient practice intended to ward off evil spirits with a drunken bribe.
Mm.
It shouldn't be surprising that the Jewish people are incredibly superstitious. Their fascination with the occult, Kabbalah, reveals this. And yet the Torah forbids such practices that were observed by pagan nations. In Deuteronomy 18:10-11, it warns, "Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead." Now to the good. Messianic Jews have struggled with adding spiritual connections to modern Passover practices. The hidden afikomen matzah bread can clearly represent Yeshua, the Passover lamb. Likewise, the third cup, the cup of redemption of the lamb's blood, is another powerful tool pointing to Messiah. We're not dissuading Christians and Jews from participating in any of the feasts. Instead, we want to point everything to our Savior. Thankfully, we Messianic believers have a better way to celebrate Passover. Since we can't sacrifice a lamb at the temple, Yeshua rebranded Passover with the communion elements. Knowing that his people would botch the celebration in the future, he simplified it. Matthew 26:26-28 emphasizes the two essentials of Yeshua's sacrifice. The bread is his body, the wine is his blood. The gospel really is simple. Even a child can understand and enter the kingdom of God. Passover is the crown jewel, the ultimate sign and example, foreshadowing Yeshua's death, burial, and resurrection. It points our people to the final sacrifice, the Lamb of God. This Passover, we choose to strip back the pageantry, spectacle, and tradition to focus on relationship, the love of our Messiah for us. And he goes, love Joshua and Caleb. So,
Amen.
Interesting, huh?
Uh-huh.
And this, I thought I would read. This is classic Zola. I don't know if they say when he wrote this. It says here, it was by Zola Levitt from 2000, 26 years ago.
Huh. Wow.
And it says here about Passover and Resurrection Sunday. And so these are Zola's words, right? Passover and Resurrection Sunday are coming up. Passover, the most basic Bible study of them and the occasion when the Lord instituted the Last Supper, is almost like secret information to be circulated by Messianic Jews to the Christian community. I remember when Dallas Baptist University, in the days when they cared more about accurate Bible teaching, asked me to do a Passover demonstration. The president at the time was so fascinated that he immediately appointed me to teach a course called Christ in the Old Testament, which I taught for 2 years. Many of my former DBU students around the world know their 7 feasts, along with their tabernacle types, and are capable of demonstrating a full Passover in all its glory. What witnesses they must be compared to the politically correct and woefully unknowledgeable graduates of today. See, they was even having trouble back then with the way the secularizing of these universities. You may notice that I did not use the term Easter in reference to Resurrection Sunday. That term is just incorrect and doesn't accurately appear in Scripture at all. Easter recalls the name of Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess of fertility. The Babylonians held a fertility festival every spring, put on new outfits as the trees were budding, and worshiping the things in nature that represent fertility, the rabbit, the egg, etc. They played with eggs and painted them, I presume. When we think about it, what we call an egg hunt is actually an attempt at pregnancy. How all this pagan foolishness got mixed up with our Lord's resurrection is one of the amazing calamities of incorrect doctrine. Fertility and resurrection are entirely different, of course. Every plant and every cockroach is fertile, but one obtains resurrection only from belief in Jesus Christ. First fruits is the biblical name of Resurrection Sunday. We should use it. It reminds us that if there is a first, then there must be a succession of numbers in the resurrection. Indeed, as Paul states, every man in his own order, Christ the firstfruits, afterward we are Christ's at his coming. 1 Corinthians 15:23. Evidently, we all have a number in the upcoming resurrection at the time of the rapture. Scripture asserts, the dead in Christ shall rise first. 1 Thessalonians 4:16. Obviously, deceased believers have earlier numbers. The above lesson was part of the Passover and 7 Feast studies, which are obtainable through the Zola Levitt Ministry, but usually not at Christian seminaries. The knowledge is valuable. Its basis is in Israel, of course, where it has been commonly understood for thousands of years. There's something about that place that really increases one's comprehension of spiritual things. So if you want to know about a good teaching on the 7 feasts, you can ask for it at Zola Levitt Ministries. They still have those teachings available. But that would be, that's an interesting thought there. First fruits is the biblical name of Resurrection Sunday. So we should call it the first fruits. So anyway, thought I would bring those along to you. And, I miss Zola. Zola's been gone a while, so we always miss Zola. He had many, many good things to teach. I am down to my last story, if you can believe it.
Wow.
So I have one archaeological story here. I don't think they had any archaeological stories in this one. Sometimes they do, but I didn't see one this time. Let me take one quick little look here to see if there's anything else in here that might be there is one thing about they do like to include that well, there is an archaeology story in here but there's one here. They have medical stories about things that happened in Israel, and this one's by Pesach Benson, TPS. An implant offers hope for millions with diabetes. Israel and the U.S. scientists have developed a biological implant that could one day eliminate the need for insulin injections. The new approach to treating diabetes and other chronic diseases allows therapeutic cells to function long-term inside the body without immune rejection.
Wow.
Developed by an international team led by the Technion Israel Institute of Technology, the technology is based on a living implant that continuously produces insulin from within the body. The implant is most relevant for people with type 1 diabetes, whose bodies cannot produce insulin, affecting almost 9.2 million people worldwide. They rely on frequent subcutaneous injections or insulin pumps, which require constant monitoring and can significantly affect daily life, particularly for children and adolescents. On the contrary, type 2 diabetes develops when the body doesn't use insulin properly or doesn't make enough of it. Because these people still produce some insulin, their condition can often be managed with medication, lifestyle changes, or partial insulin therapy. Previous efforts to replace insulin injections with implants have failed because the immune system attacks implanted cells, destroys them, or renders them ineffective. Other approaches rely on external sensors, pumps, or immune-suppressing drugs, limiting their long-term use. The new implant functions as an autonomous artificial pancreas made of engineered living cells. Wow. These cells directly sense glucose levels, and release insulin as needed without external devices or ongoing intervention. The implant knows when insulin is needed and releases the exact amount at the right time, stated Dr. Shadi Farah of the Technion's Wolfson Faculty of Chemical Engineering. That's a place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Researchers encase the insulin-producing cells in a specially engineered crystalline structures that shield them from immune attack. Unlike polymer-based capsules used in earlier implants, these structures allow glucose, oxygen, nutrients, and insulin to pass through while blocking immune cells. Scientists from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins University, and the University of Massachusetts collaborated with Israeli researchers to develop the implant. Because the implant has proven effective in several animal models, the results support moving toward clinical trials on humans. The research was published in the peer-reviewed journal Science Translational Medicine. Beyond diabetes, researchers say that the implant could be adapted for use with other chronic conditions. The technology represents a new class of living medicines where engineered implants act as autonomous drug factories capable of producing therapeutic proteins on demand. That sounds fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But they're always at work at things. Now we'll just have to see if that actually comes about. Can you imagine the copay on that? Oh, my. Oh, man. I'm going to read this article, and then I'm going to read this article. Two archaeological things. Here
Okay.
we've got. This one comes from the Jerusalem Post. A collection of Paleolithic stone hand axes found in the Sakhnine Valley of the Lower Galilee has shed new light on the cultural and cognitive world of early humans, according to a recent study completed by researchers from Tel Aviv University. After noticing several napped stones scattered around the valley, Sakhnine resident Mautaz Shalata brought the finds to the attention of Tel Aviv University professor Ron Barkai, an archaeologist and expert on the topic of early Paleolithic culture. Barkai, alongside Shalata, embarked on an archaeological expedition in the valley and discovered a series of Paleolithic sites containing hundreds of large, carefully crafted stone hand axes. The axes were dated to Pleistocene, likely made by Homo erectus, the first human species to evolve to have human-like body shape and gait. Now, I don't believe that stuff. I don't believe in these, early creatures that evolved into man. I just don't believe that. But
Yeah.
that's what they're talking about here, okay?
It's like, ape was the first man. I was like, well, then why are there still apes?
You're right. I mean,
But
but say they're talking about these they're claiming they lived in these regions hundreds of thousands of years ago. Hand axes served as a main tool of early humans for more than 1 million years. Well, who knows if it really was a million years, but we'll see. In the Saknin Valley, many hundreds of hand axes were found, indicating the area served as an important hub of human activity over long periods of time. The Saknin Valley is also located near what researchers believe to have been the main route of early elephants, which would have been a primary food source for early humans and given reason for the high quantity of the hand axes found. Aside from the quantity of hand axes found, researchers noted that the large number of axes decorated and shaped around fossils and geodes exceeds all comparable finds of similar artifacts documented to date. Barkai also explained that Homo erectus may have been attracted to the Saknin Valley due to the large amount of geodes, flint, and fossils found within it. Again, they have found problems in archaeological dating that they're using other things to try to correct now. Who knows if these are hundreds of thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. And like I said, I'm not buying this Homo erectus stuff and all that.
Right.
But anyway, he said, early humans who came here hundreds of thousands of years ago must have been astonished by this exceptional richness of stones, leaving behind an extraordinary phenomenon. He said, adding that more than 10 hand axes fashioned from flint nodules containing fossils or special geological formations have been found. These natural features were delicately preserved in a prominent position at the center of each hand axe by early humans. Since such features make precise and symmetrical knapping difficult, we can conclude that the section of these specific stones was not accidental. On the contrary, the knapping process highlighted the natural feature and kept it at the center of the tool. In other words, they were seeing these fossil formations and they were putting them in to the center of their tool to make it attractive.
Right.
Making it like an inlaid thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
According to the researchers, the phenomena shows a higher level of aesthetic and conceptual intention. Well, it can go on and on. Anyway, they found these hand axes. I don't know what they do with the flood story.
Mm-hmm.
If the flood covered the earth, then why are these hand axes showing up from people from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years ago? I don't know. But anyway, they found these things, and they show obvious that they have been actually fashioned that way for decoration. Let's put it that way. So anyway, everybody wants, once they're, they do that with the handles of guns, right? They make them fancy. They have ivory inlay on some of them and all that kind of stuff. Well, they were doing that with their weapons back then,
And well, we won't give the answer that Trump or George Patton gave when somebody mentioned that he had pearl-handled revolvers. He says they're ivory. Only a cheap pimp from a New Orleans brothel would carry pearl-handled revolvers.
Oh, my goodness. Well, here's some archaeology from the Levitt letter here. Pilgrim's Flask mold reveals ancient souvenir industry. So evidently they've been making souvenirs in the Holy Land for a long time. Archaeologists recently discovered a rare 1,400-year-old limestone mold in the Judean desert that was used to manufacture small flasks for Christian pilgrims during the Holy Land, during the Holy Land. They did it then. They're still doing it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
The remarkable find features an elaborate cross and Greek inscription reading Lord's blessing from the holy places. It offers evidence of a thriving pilgrimage tourism industry in Israel that flourished during the 6th and 7th centuries AD. Wow. The mold was uncovered during the 3rd season of excavations at Hyrcania, I guess is how they say that, Hyrcania. This desert fortress monastery, about 10 miles southeast of Jerusalem, has yielded numerous treasures revealing the site's wealthy Byzantine monastic past. The limestone mold discovered at Hyrcania was designed to produce vessels known as ampullae. Pilgrims purchased these small devotional flasks and then filled them with holy oil or water from biblical sites associated with Jesus Christ and early believers. So that's what they took their holy water back with, huh? The flask's inscription was deciphered by Dr. Abner Ecker. Similar ampullae from this period have been found throughout the Christian world, with the most famous collection housed at Monza Cathedral in northern Italy. The Italian examples demonstrate how far pilgrims traveled to visit the Holy Land in ancient times and how precious these souvenirs remained. Michael Haber and Dr. Oren Gutfeld, another Gutfeld, right? Co-directors of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem excavations, noted that the monastery likely manufactured the ampullae, the site's strategic location between Jerusalem and Jericho, near other pilgrimage destinations like the Mount of the Scapegoat and the Mount of Temptation, would have made an ideal stop for Christian pilgrims seeking rest and renewal. Hyrcania's history stretches back over 2 millennia. Originally constructed by Hasmonean rulers between the late 2nd and early 1st centuries BC, the fortress was part of a defensive network protecting the kingdom's eastern border. After Roman destruction, Herod the Great rebuilt the site, but it was abandoned shortly after his death at the end of the 1st century BC. The site's Christian chapter began in AD 492. Holy Sabas, a pioneering figure in Judean desert monasticism, ascended what he described as a terrifying mountain to establish a monastery. Though the community continued operating even after the Islamic conquest in AD 636, the site fell into disuse in the late 8th or early 9th century. The excavations have revealed that the Hyrcania wasn't an ordinary monastic outpost. Alongside the flask mold, archaeologists discovered 2 coins featuring Byzantine Emperor Heraclius, minted in Constantinople between AD 613 and 641. These pure gold coins represent substantial wealth. Archaeologists also found a gold ring inlaid with a yellow stone, possibly citrine. The size of the ring would not fit a male monk, Haber noted, suggesting it may have belonged to a female pilgrim or possibly one of the rarer female monastics known to have lived in the region. Others finds include the lid of a stone reliquary that likely contained bones or remains of a believer, fragments of Byzantine Greek inscriptions, and a rare red-painted Greek inscription paraphrasing Psalm 86. Colorful mosaics and well-preserved archaeological remains further attest to the monastery's prosperity and importance. Well, if you're out there in the desert, you got to do something to make money, I guess.
Well, yeah.
So
because you need food.
You need food, so you're going to produce, all of these things for the tourists, right?
Right.
The excavations, a joint effort by the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and Israel's Civil Administration's Archaeology Unit, combines salvage archaeology with academic research. For nearly a century, the site has suffered from heavy looting and vandalism. All those sites have. Haber explained, she added that the project aims to stay ahead of antiquities thieves while unlocking the site's research potential. As excavations continue, archaeologists hope to uncover more artifacts that will ultimately illuminate both the monastery's spiritual life and its role in the pilgrimage economy that connected the Holy Land with the Christian communities across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. So there's the gold coins that they have found.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So there you go. But they had this thing, and it was the impression for the little flasks that they were making there. You can see them in the sunlight there. So very, very interesting. So, okay, well, I have run out of stories to tell, I guess. I hope that that has brought some information to you this week. Hold out everything in prayer. I think that our president is trying to do a little bit of the pea under the shell game here with things going on in Iran. He's not showing his hand. He's showing something, but I don't think that's ultimately what's going to happen here. So just keep our military in prayer. Cover them with prayer and safety. And of course, again, pray for Israel as well, and for the Mossad and for the IDF that's trying to do what it's doing. They're still fighting against Lebanon. They're still fighting all of these different fronts.
Mhm.
And so, and then they're trying to enter into the Passover season here and still having to run to bomb shelters. So I'm not sure what kind of a Passover that they're going to have this year. Sometimes they want to use those. It's been proven here now that they like to use these Jewish holidays as a time to do more terrorist type things. So next Wednesday is going to be Passover, and we just need to pray over that situation as well. So we ask you prayers for everything. Pray for Richard, pray for Jim, and pray for all of us here at Adat Ariel that we can keep these things coming your way. And if you want to keep them coming your way, Jim will tell you how.
If you'd like to make a contribution, you can send it through the mail to Truth in Life Today, 1301 Enterprise Way, Suite 63, Marion, Illinois, 62959. That's Truth in Life Today, 1301 Enterprise Way, Suite 63, Marion, Illinois, 62959. And in your envelope, stick a little note in there and tell us how you'd like your donation to be used.
Yes. Tomorrow evening is Shabbat. And then next week, I guess Wednesday night, Passover evening, we will be having Hebrew class. And then hopefully Richard will be well enough to come next Thursday to do what he wanted to do about, he has a specific teaching he wants to bring about the timing of Yeshua's birth, I believe.
Yes.
And so that's what he wants to do. And so keep him in prayer that he'll get all well with that medication he's taken. With as much as it costs, it should be. It should work. So
it better work.
It better work. So until we see you again at the same